On July 16, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in the Pacific Ocean, representatives from the United States, Britain, and China met with Japanese officials to discuss ending World War II. The Japanese delegation left after 2 days of talks without an agreement. In fact, they didn't realize it yet, but the war would be over in just 3 weeks, though not without one hell of a bang. At the time, Japan had been fighting against the Allied forces for 6 long years, and they were losing badly. They lost many soldiers, and they also lost much of their navy. But they thought that by keeping on fighting, they could somehow turn the tide of the war in their favor. They never thought they would have to surrender. However, at the Potsdam Conference in July, the Allied leaders decided that there was only one way to end this war once and for all. They wanted Japan to surrender unconditionally. This meant that any further negotiations were pointless. So when the Japanese delegation left the meeting on July 16th, the Allied leaders knew that they would soon need to force Japan into surrendering. In fact, they had already made plans to invade mainland Japan. But before that, they had one more option to try. On August 2nd, the United States dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. This ended up being the first nuclear weapon ever used in combat, and it changed the course of history forever. It also marked the beginning of the atomic age, which continues to this day. But when exactly did this happen? What actually went down on that fateful day? Join us today as we take a look back at the true story of the first atomic bomb and find out what really happened on that day. It was 8:15 a.m. on Monday, August 6, 1945. The sun was shining and the birds were tweeting. It was another beautiful summer morning in Hiroshima, Japan. The people were going about their daily lives, working, shopping, taking care of their business. They had no idea that their city was about to be destroyed. Suddenly, there was a bright flash of light followed by a loud explosion. People looked up in the sky and saw a mushroom cloud forming in the distance. They had never seen anything like it before. It was the first atomic bomb, codenamed Little Boy, which had just exploded over the city. Little Boy was the brainchild of J. Robert Oppenheimer and his team of scientists. It was an incredibly complex device that contained highly enriched uranium-235. When the bomb was dropped, uranium atoms split and released a tremendous amount of energy in the form of heat and radiation. The blast radius was approximately 62 miles. Then within that area, everything was immediately destroyed. An estimated 80,000 people were killed instantly by the heat and shockwave. Those who survived the initial explosion were often critically wounded. Their skin was burned away, their organs failed, and they died horrible, painful deaths. Many others suffered from radiation poisoning and died within weeks or months. Even those who survived the bombing physically suffered from long-term health issues such as cancer and heart disease. We have numerous survivor accounts of this event that show how truly horrible it was. One survivor recalled, "I turned around to go home, but I couldn't walk because my legs had been blown off by shrapnel. I don't remember if I screamed or not, but my whole body was burning with pain. I was burning too. My neck, my face, my arms, my legs, and my back were all burned and I couldn't move." Another survivor said, "I had gone to work in a factory that day, but I was late. So I was standing at the entrance waiting for the whistle to blow when I saw a bright light coming from the sky. I turned to run away, but I felt a strong wind on my back, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. I had no idea what had happened. I asked a nurse what had occurred, and she told me that an atomic bomb had been dropped on the city." Another survivor said, "The light was blinding. I couldn't help but stare at it. Then came the sound, a roar like a train. I didn't know what had happened. I was stunned. I looked around me and saw that the ground had cracked and broken underneath me. I got up and started walking. That's when I saw the people. They were running, screaming, falling down dead. Everyone was crying and shouting for help. I've never seen so much destruction in my life. I'll never forget it." As the dust settled, the people of Hiroshima began to survey the damage. The city was in ruins. Buildings were burnt and destroyed. Streets were littered with debris, and the air was filled with the stench of death. Hospitals were overwhelmed with patients. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly to save lives, but there were simply too many casualties. Medical services collapsed. Roads were impassable. People could not get in or out of the city. Communication lines were down. The outside world had no idea what had happened. Japan's top military leaders were shocked and horrified. Had never heard of an atomic bomb, let alone seen one in action. They had no idea how to defend against this new weapon. Within hours, the United States dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki, Japan. The Japanese people were terrified. They had been attacked twice now by this mysterious new weapon, and they didn't know what to do. News of the bombings quickly spread around the world. People were shocked and horrified. They'd never seen anything like this before. World War II would come to an end. Just 6 days later, on September 2nd, 1945. So why did the United States drop the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima? The decision to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima was a difficult one. The United States had developed the weapon during the war, but it was not sure how to use it. Some people believe that the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima because it was a military target. However, this is not entirely true. Hiroshima was a military target, but so were many other cities in Japan. In reality, the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima because it was a large city that was not heavily defended. The United States wanted to make sure that the bomb would cause as much damage as possible. Additionally, Hiroshima was chosen because it was relatively close to Nagasaki, which was the second city to be bombed. By dropping the bombs close together, the United States could more easily observe the effects of the weapons. Finally, Hiroshima was chosen because it was a symbol of Japan's military power. The city was home to several important military bases and installations, including the headquarters of the Japanese Army and Navy. By bombing Hiroshima, the United States was sending a message to Japan's military leaders that they were vulnerable.
Ow!
But what really happened to the survivors of this event? The survivors of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima are known as hibakusha, which means explosion-affected people. They have faced discrimination and persecution for decades. For years, the Japanese government denied that the bombings had occurred, let alone that they had caused the health problems of the hibakusha. As a result, the survivors were too afraid to speak out about their experiences. However, in recent years, the hibakusha have become more vocal in an effort to raise awareness of the long-term effects of nuclear weapons. They have also fought for compensation from the Japanese government. In 2007, the government finally agreed to pay compensation to survivors who developed cancer as a result of the bombings. The hibakusha continued to be an important reminder of the horrors of war and the importance of peace. They are also a reminder of the long-term effects of nuclear weapons. The radiation from the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki will continue to cause cancer and other health problems for generations to come. After the Second World War, Japan became one of the most powerful economies in the world. However, the country has been slow to acknowledge the suffering of its citizens. For many years, the Japanese government has tried to downplay the role of the United States in ending World War II. Instead, the government has emphasized Japan's victory in the war. This has led to a distorted view of history and has caused many Japanese citizens to be ignorant of the horrors of the atomic bombings. However, in recent years, there has been a movement to remember the victims of the atomic bombings. Memorial services are now held every year on August 6th and 9th, and museums have been established to document the history of the bombings. Do you think it was right for the US to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And with that, thanks so much for watching today. Be sure to stay tuned for more videos like these. We'll see you next time.